When I was 5 years old, I was sent to prison. When I walked out at 18, my home was gone. So was my family. All my father left behind was a battered wooden box. I thought it held nothing but memories. I was wrong. The moment I opened it, my life was rewritten. Inside was a $50 million check, 49% ownership of an international conglomerate, and a letter from my father. In that letter, he finally told me the truth. What happened to our family was never an accident. We were framed by more than one person. Everyone in the group photo inside that box was a murderer. But it was his final sentence that froze my blood. He said he hoped I could forgive them. I stared at the photo with only one thought in my mind. No, never. I changed my name to Emily and returned to the world of power and wealth. I rented the seaside villa I had lived in as a child, and the woman living there now, Jia, was one of the people who had destroyed my father. I followed her all the way to a hotel, and by pure coincidence, Conrad showed up too. That's when I knew the moment had arrived. Disguised as a server, I slipped into their room. While no one was paying attention, I dropped a little something into her soup. Moments after their affair ended, the man suddenly grabbed his chest and collapsed. A heart attack. Panic exploded through the room. An ambulance rushed Conrad away. I stood at a distance, watching it all unfold. Then, at just the right moment, I stepped forward.
My God, is this your husband? Do you need a ride to the hospital? No, I don't.
Jia's face drained of color. She didn't answer. She turned, disappeared into the crowd, and ran. When Victoria arrived at the hospital, the doctor assured her her husband had only eaten something bad. He was fine, but there was one problem. She remembered clearly. Her husband had told her he was going golfing, and yet he was wearing hotel pajamas. In that instant, she understood everything. She grabbed him by the collar and said only one thing.
Don't do it again.
Not long after, the city's elite gathered for a charity gala on a yacht. Using a friend's connections, I got myself inside, and that was where I officially met Victoria. She warmly introduced me to her closest friend, Jia. I smiled at her and said calmly,
We met briefly on the beach.
And then yesterday at the South Fork Inn. I hope your husband's feeling better.
The air turned to ice. Victoria looked at me, then at Jia, silent, pale, trapped. She understood everything. The next second, she exploded right there in public. She returned the Van Gogh Jia had gifted her, untouched, called security, and had her thrown off the yacht. A friendship that had lasted more than 10 years. Ended in seconds, and my eyes were already on my next target. Daniel, Victoria's only son. Because years ago, in the footage of my father's trial, the very first person to stand up and accuse him was the woman he loved most. His secretary. What I didn't know was this. My identity was already exposed, and the person who knew the truth was, at that very moment, quietly walking into my home.
Welcome home, Amanda.